surface rust is on all this metal that's untreated back there. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. This week's goal is to see if we can figure out the mileage on the good old T2. So that's what we're going to try to do, and hopefully at the end we'll know it. Back in the shop now, we know for sure that it was the BCM was the problem, why it wouldn't start. So we were on the right track the whole time. So I'll go ahead and take this thing back apart again, or take all the stuff back out of it again. And once I do that, we'll see how, that's the next big hurdle, which is going to be, I have no idea how hard it's going to be, but it looks hard to get the actual one of those pins out of there without tearing something up, and get it soldered back into the new one without tearing something up. At least we've got this many of them to try. So this one's just junk now. We found out what we need to know from it, and now we need to harvest its parts. All right, so here we have the used motherboard, or whatever you want to call it, body control module circuits, and this right here is the one we want out. I'm gonna try it first, so I want to, and it has to come in this direction because it's wider on this side. You can see that or not. So I will heat this up with my little torch and see if that will let the solder let loose. At the same time, I'll be pulling. All right, so here we go again with our handy dandy little torch, and this is the one we want out. Pull from this direction. Loosen it up. There it goes. That shiny stuff on there is the solder. So now we got to try to put that into our original one. All right, so here is our original T2 one. So this has got to go in like that. And I think the tricky part is that it has to be perfectly lined up because our fuses come in this way, and so these grooves have to be perfectly lined up. And then our big plug goes in the other side, and it has to be perfectly lined up. So there is no room for error at all. Like right now, if you look at it, it looks perfectly lined up everywhere. But trying to heat it and get solder into it at the same time as it stays that in that spot is not going to be easy. I think what I want to do is solder from this direction, heat from this side, and it's supposed to maybe draw it towards the heat. Okay, so I let it cool off a little bit, and I guess as it contracts from the heat of the board contracts, hopefully I didn't get the board too hot, but it solidified. The solder, got hard, and everything contracted, so it feels good and solid in the hole. But I think I got it all lined up correctly. It looks like it's all in line. So let's connect it, put it back in its case, and go see what it does. All back together. I had to go get the new one to make sure I had all the fuses in the right spot. So here's the new one. Make sure I don't put that one in there. All right, so this is our original one repaired. When I put the fuse in the spot of the pin that I put in, it seems solid, and the other side of it still seems solid. So hopefully we can see something here in just a second. All right, so there's our original one back hooked up. Got the battery hooked up. We have lights. Let's see if we see something on the gauges. Okay. So our BCM, the original one, is working and we still have no gauges. So I'd say it's not the BCM. There's got to be some other reason that those instruments aren't working. So next step is to check and figure out what's going on. Okay, so I decided to start checking the easiest things first. So I'll look at this fuse box in the engine compartment. The first thing I saw was that we have a blown fuse right here, which is engine cooling fan, so that shouldn't affect our gauges, but I do need to go ahead and replace it. I'll yank it out and go get one out of the Solstice coupe down there just to see what it happens, but I'm gonna go ahead and check all these fuses with my gauge here, make sure, see what else is blown, if anything.
Hey guys, it's time to pick the winner for the t-shirt contest that Dad announced in last week's video. All you have to do to be entered to win was just comment T2 down in the comment section down below. And so we're at our YouTube comment picker and we're gonna hit start to pick the random winner for this week's video. And the winner for this week's video is Scott Combs, who said, T2, nice to hear the purr. Yeah, great to hear the car started up, and if you just want to send us an email with your contact info, we'll get a t-shirt sent out to you. Thanks.
All right, so I went through and checked everything in the fuse box, and that was the only one that was blown. Weird, I don't know why that would have been blown. But I'll put that back on. And I went ahead and popped the trunk. And before I start, I think the goal for today is to get this dash out. It's gonna be a lot easier to clean all that smoke off of there. Plus, I need to see what's going on behind there. Maybe the gauge cluster is corroded, like the wiring harness back in there or something. It's just, there's got to be some reason that gauge cluster is not working, because I don't see any fuses or anything else. Everything in the car works but the gauge cluster, like every button and knob and everything. So, got to be something going on behind that dash, I think. So, anyway, before I do that, I want to go ahead and get back here now that I've got the ability to pop the trunk and vacuum this out and clean all this smoke damage up here, and just generally clean it, vacuum all the, like there's like ash back in here, suck all that up and just get it cleaned up. Okay, so you can see it does come clean. Got this side done. That really sooty stuff, and it just wipes right off, but there's some stuff that like gets under there where the smoke was trying to go up, where it probably got hotter, but you have to use some chemical, like some Fantastic or something, to get it off. But it does come off, so let's keep on going. Okay, so we're going to start trying to tear this dash apart. Really trying not to break any tabs or anything like that, because this dash has obviously never been apart. I think this is a low mileage car, even though I haven't figured that out yet. But I've checked every knob and every button in here and they all work, which is rare, because a lot of times this button here, the fog light button, it stops working pretty soon after the car is built and it still works. So I just want to try to get everything out without tearing anything up. So I've got this variety of plastic tools used to pop things up and off. And I know the first thing we have to do is get this handle right here off. So all right, so now we need to pop this up. And I hear it's starting to rain. That's not a good thing. If it's starting to rain, I probably need to get this thing off the trailer and get it inside where I can work on it and not be in trouble if I get it all apart and can't get it back together. Okay, so while it's trying to rain, I had to hurry up and go get the truck, hook it up to this thing, go to the basement, get one of my seats so I could drive it, set it back down in there, get my wife's car out of the garage, which she wasn't happy about. And now I'm going to hopefully start this thing, get it off the trailer, and get it in that side of the garage with enough room to stay out of the rain while I take the dash apart. All right, so the next step is to go in and try to take all this stuff apart without breaking clips. And this thing comes apart down here Go around this and then up here, not here, but there's tabs back up in here. Once we pop all this off, we should be able to reach back in here and unhook all these plugs. All right, so I don't think I broke anything. Now I gotta go down and get a Allen wrench to get that set screw out of the bottom of the shifter so I can pull that out. Then I should be able to lift the whole thing up and remove the wiring off the back of it. Then we'll see what we've got behind there. Okay, so that set screw is frozen in there and will not move with this Allen wrench. So I'm gonna have to try to heat it up. I don't know if my little butane torch will heat it enough to get some of that. There's thread locker in there is why. Get some of that to break loose, but you got to be careful because right underneath that thing is a rubber boot. You don't want to burn that. All right, so the heat did break it loose, but man, that thing is on there. I mean, it is super. It's that blue Loctite, so it looks like inside it, and you can see it down there. That's the little shaft that's left. So now we'll be able to clean this leather really good. We'll pull this back down, and we can get leather cleaner all in here with it like that. And get good and clean. We should be able to just pull the rest of that dash up and unhook the wires. All right, so here we have the dash. No tabs broken. Definitely just smoky and dirty back here. Man, that smoke gets everywhere in a car. I mean, it just, when it can't get out, it just goes in every crack and crevice. So we'll remove all these little buttons and clean that here in a little while. But first, let's check on this gauge cluster. I mean, look how much smoke is back in there. There's one hard screw to get to, and that's way down there. I'll try to get it with a little bitty quarter drive socket, like a deep well one. And we'll pull that out and see what's behind it, but check it out. Look at how much surface rust is on all this metal that's untreated back there. Ooh. So I probably need to address that, and I'm sure it's all back behind there too. So it's looking like a full dash removal. All right, so here's our cluster out. It's definitely really black on the top, but the plug did not look bad at all, and there's no corrosion in there. So, I mean, it looks to me just like smoke. I don't know that it got hot enough to do anything to it. The only thing I know to do is you can get these pretty cheap from salvage yards, and since the mileage is stored in the BCM, I could order one of these, plug it up, and then just see if that works. And if it does, then we know it's this thing. For now, let's continue taking the dash apart since it's got to come off anyway. Radio has to come out. I went ahead and took that little console out. You can see that pops out. All the stuff will just unscrew and pop off there. And then we can get everything clean and figure out what we're going to do about the non-painted metal. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to test, I kind of took a break a minute and got back on the gauges to see if I could figure anything out, so I can get them ordered if I need to. And so the first thing I did was hook the battery back up. I've got the key in the on position, and I've got a test light here. I've got it grounded. And so this fuse, right, it's fuse number 7, which is this one, is the one that goes to the cluster. So I'm gonna test it. this should light up if it's got power going to the cluster. And it does, both sides. And by the way, this is our one that this number 10, that's the one that we soldered the pin in. So let's check and see, make sure 100% it's good. So we're computer circuit repairman. All right, so we have power going through the BCM to the gauge cluster. So I guess the next thing to do is go to the wire sticking out there and try to figure out which one of those is the power pin and make sure we got power there. If we got power there, then I guess the gauge cluster is bad. Alright, so I've got a new cluster ordered, and now I just need to go ahead and continue getting this dash out so we can see what we got to clean up back behind there. Alright, so I found out that you definitely have to take this airbag out. There's two bolts that go here and here, 10 millimeter. Take those out and this thing will lift up a little bit. And then there's a connection right in here. Pull this little plug and then you can pull it out, pull the connection out. And then that reveals these two bolts right here that have to come out to get the dash the rest of the way out. So hopefully that's the last two. All right, so dash is out. This is like the inner dash, and it is covered in smoke. Every time you work on any of this interior, your hands just get covered black. You can see there's still smoke like underneath all this trim panel that I got off. And by the way, I've not broken any more tabs since that very first one on that little grab handle. So got to try to find another one of those grab handles. But I think I'm going to continue on and try to get this inner dash out too, so I can get it clean and then see like how far I need to go as far as like treating that rust back up behind there. It's just surface rust. I mean, you can still see the steel, the untreated steel up there on the top, but I don't know, I'd kind of like to do something with that. But this I can take off and go and take it down there and put it in my little sandblasting cabinet and blast that. So I'll take lots of pictures and see if I can get this thing off. Alright, so that is what the Solstice looks like without any of the dash stuff. And what do you guys think I should do on this metal? I'm inclined to use the, they make some rust inhibitor stuff that's supposed to be able to spray right on rust, transform it into a black paintable surface. And since this will never see the light of day, I'm thinking about using that. I've used it for years on different things, and I've never seen rust come back through it. Well, guys, thanks for watching this episode of Rebuild It. We really appreciate it. Man, I was hoping to find the mileage out on this thing this week, but it just didn't happen. My apologies. Hopefully it'll be on next week's video. But we are coming upon really close to getting our 1,000 subscribers. And so we really need everybody that is watching this video that enjoys it to please subscribe to the channel. And when we get our 1,000, we'll be official YouTubers. So we hope that happens. And if you did enjoy it, give us a thumbs up and share us with your friends. And we'll see you next week.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.